So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first episode of Talking to the Author, a casual chat with a business book author, hosted by Bettin and with special guest Steve Brierley. But before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Marlene Hernandez, and I am the office manager here at ReSourceYYC. We are a co-working space for professionals. So if you're looking for a private office to work for the day or on a monthly basis, just let me tell you that this is the right place for you. So we also provide virtual office services in case that you don't want to use your home address for your business. I'll be sharing with you our website in case that you want to find out more information about our services here and also about our upcoming events. Well, that being said, it is time to start with the session. So Ron Bettin, he's one of our co-founders here at ReSourceYYC, but I will let him to introduce himself. So Ron.
Thanks, Marlene. And really, you do want to come down to ReSourceYYC because of Marlene. She's amazing. I actually think she should be hosting the whole podcast. You got a great voice. So appreciate that, Marlene. And yeah, I'm one of the co-founders here. I am an independent consultant as well as an entrepreneur. So I do a bit of everything, and now including we're doing networking events at ReSourceYYC, and we have now changed them into networking podcasting events. So it's exciting for us. And on our website, we have a series of all the past ones. And this will be our first networking event and podcast that we're talking to authors in Calgary. And this is pretty exciting for me because there's so many good business authors and authors in our city. That it really, we wanted to take some time. Part of ReSourceYYC is to really connect entrepreneurs, connect business people, and really highlight some exceptional people in Calgary, including some of the exceptional authors in town. So this is our inaugural book. Won't be our book club, but our interview the author, and we have Steve Brierley with us today, Brierley, and he is from Better Human Group. He's the founder. And Steve is really focused on creating a space where people can share their stories of how they make the world a better place. And in 2018, Steve founded Real Leader Development Company with the goal of helping leaders be better leaders by helping them learn critical leadership skills. As part of the business, he hosted 3 leadership conferences in Calgary and Phoenix and heard some incredible stories from leaders that are making a difference by caring about their teams. And in 2019, the company dramatically changed direction after talking to one executive coaching session. And I'm not even going to read the rest of that bio because I think some of that would be better coming from Steve.
Sure.
And it's a great story to how he got there. So what I will say is that that Steve is a lifelong learner. He's attained his master's in arts from leadership from Royal Roads University and is a certified executive coach. And a graduate of the program and is PCC accredited from the International Coaching Federation and Director of External Relations on the board of the Calgary ICF chapter. And Steve resides in Calgary with his spouse and a son who is pursuing a marketing degree in BC. So welcome here today, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. And it's a great book to start out on, very inspiring books. Actually, we're going to talk about a few books you have with some inspiring stories and some real life lessons to learn from today. So we'll try and get a few nuggets out. We were just saying before, we could probably talk for about 3 hours. So we'll try and keep it to a hard 1 hour stop for this podcast. So maybe we start out. Steve, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure.
Outside of the bio there's more to Steve than that, what I read.
You know, the book writing is really a side hustle. My primary role is with an organization called Gallagher, and I'm a VP of Leadership and Assessment and Development for Western Canada. So we work with large corporations and design leadership programs, do executive coaching, and really have enjoyed getting into the process of writing a book. I honestly never ever thought I would write a book. I think the first book I read, I think I was 18. I was a challenged high school student. Barely got out. Thank God that passing was 50. But just a great experience. And learned a lot about the process, learned a lot about working with other people, and it's just been a fantastic experience.
Cool. So we went back to your grade 12 English teacher that book writing was on the report card. You should be an author.
Yeah, remember Cole's notes? Those were my best friends back in high school.
Exactly.
Wasn't for those, I would still be in high school probably.
So, and now in your careers, so you have a lot of life experience come up here, not as an author, but you spent a lot of your career in, well, various things, but a lot of leadership as well prior to.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I'm originally from Montreal, then moved to Toronto, worked there for a while, doing marketing for different industrial organizations, and Sun Life, Ingersoll Rand, and did some retail marketing for a company called Fitness Depot, and then came out to Calgary. And then from there, I got into the computer industry, and I was running a computer training company here in Calgary. Very fortunate enough to move down to California and do the same thing right near in Santa Cruz, California, and Salinas, right near Monterey. Then off to Phoenix, and then I came back. Had a chance to work in post-secondary, so I worked at both SAIT in the business school and then University of Alberta School of Business. And from there, joined the energy sector. So I had a chance to work in Canada and Enbridge, focused on talent management and coaching, leadership development, that type of thing. From there, I went to Canadian Tire. So I was the AVP of talent for Canadian Tire, Marks, and FGL Sports. Great place to work. Got a really good discount on clothing. I really miss that. And for a couple of years, I started a business, and then I came over to Optimum Talent just prior to COVID. So I've been very fortunate. I've had some great opportunities.
And I expect none of those jobs you're planning to write a book, but I expect you a little bits of all of that history helped inform kind of who you are today and where you ended up. So
absolutely.
So maybe actually we can talk about a bit about your company. So you started Real Leadership Development, with the intent. What prompted that?
Big part of it was I had met a number of leaders who wanted to learn skills to be better leaders, and really around basics, how to have good conversations, how to connect, how to give feedback. And then I also realized that people wanted an opportunity just to get together and learn from one another. So that's when that first conference was put on. It was October of 2018. It was here in Calgary. And I had some great keynote speakers. I had a panel, had 450 people come to the event. It was a paid event at the BMO, and it was a ton of fun. Music, but most importantly, people had a chance to learn something about leadership and walk away with a new skill. So that really what initiated the second one, which was in May of 2019 here in Calgary. And same format, just a different focus. It was about how to be resilient, and had once again some great speakers come and talk about resilience and leadership and agility. In that fall, September, I did a conference in Phoenix in Scottsdale with I collaborated with somebody, and that was also on resilience, and once again had just some fantastic speakers. And so it was a great experience. Just a great talk.
Couple things about those conferences. They were pre-COVID, so
yes,
that was perfect way to get people together. And you at that point is when you started to decide that you should write a book, right?
Yeah,
was it at that conference? Where was the inspiration? I know you had some actual specific, and that was a bit in your bio that you actually had talked to some leaders, but had the book been on your mind and then it crystallized, or that instant?
Yeah, I thought about writing a book a long time ago, and I just would never seem to make it happen. After I'd done the first conference, and someone had said to me specifically, we were talking about leadership, and they said to me, I wish my leader would just be a little bit more human. And it was a real trigger for me. I thought, wow, that's I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
And so decided to test it out. So the first thing we did, and I did it with a couple of people who had helped with the conference. And for the first book, the idea was to create a collaboration for the book. So I had people that I'd gone to school with at Royal Roads University. We bought a kiosk on Stevens Avenue, and I had created these cards here. They're called Better Human Challenge cards.
Yeah.
And the idea behind the challenge card is you pick a card and it asks you to do something, like hold the door for somebody, smile. So sure enough, beautiful weather until the day of the kiosk, and it's pouring rain, freezing cold, but people were stopping, and it was really fascinating to hear people talk and how emotional it was for people. That was the thing that struck me the most, is this the power and the emotion of what it felt like to do something for somebody else, or for someone to do something for you. So that really kicked it off. It got that first book going, and with the help of the 4 other authors, we went and created. So the 4 other authors: Maria Anderson, Letha Cosentino, Robin Sturr, and Paul Lamoureux. We compiled a list of 100 things you could do to be a better human being. And it was based on some research we had done, some interviews we had done, focus groups, and we put it into the first book. And the idea would be that, hey, I'll pick something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the cards were a reflection of those, or
they were. And the idea behind the cards was to make it something really simple and,
yeah,
like 10 words or less that you could put on the card. And you know what? It was really fascinating to see the response. People liked the cards. We didn't really sell a lot of them, but we're getting more interest now, interestingly enough. And that was back in 2019 that the cards came out.
Cool.
The first version of it, anyways.
So the journey continues. So you went from the kiosk from the cards, handing them out in the freezing cold, to maybe writing a book is warmer thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. So let's actually. So you have. We'll talk about 3 books actually, but we'll talk about 2 specifically. So the first book I got up here is being a better human being at work and at home. So this was your first book.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And this was inspired by a bunch of cards with questions on it or actions on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked earlier. It's a bit of kind of chicken soup for the soul with some life coaching tips tied in there, right?
And I think
it turns out a set of action cards to go with it, correct?
Well, yeah, because the book itself it's almost like a workbook. And I think the key part to the book, if on the cover you'll see it's a kick-ass reminder to be better. And so what we were trying to say is, like, there's no specific formula here. It's different for everybody, and we all know these things, but we thought, let's just make it a reminder for people. And it was simple things like introduce yourself to the person you see every day when you're buying coffee. Like, really start to connect. Reach out to an old teacher that you haven't heard from in years and send them a note and just say thank you. It was really about being much more personal, more connecting between people. And we actually asked people not to use email. We asked them to go old school and write a handwritten note and send a card, or even crazy, give them a phone call. So
after not having talked to them for a lot of years.
And sorry.
No, I was going to ask you. So how did you come up with the 100 items? Like, was it the 4 of you sat down, brainstormed, or research? How did you come up with that?
Both ways. We did some research.
Yeah.
And then we kind of reflected personally on what we thought we wanted to do, and then that's where we each made 20. Yeah. And compiled it into the book.
And then did each of you do your 20, or did you do all 100 of the items?
Well,
what's your experience? Tell me about your experience with the coaching from your book.
Well, I can tell you the one story that really impacted me quite a bit. It was, so in Calgary we have the plus 15s, and there was you walk up and through the plus 15s, and there was a guy there that I'd see every day. He was in an electric wheelchair, and he was selling artwork, small little tiles. Nothing too fancy, right? And they had magnets on the back. And, honestly, in the old days, I'd try to turn my eyes away and walk past him because I just never felt comfortable
Yeah.
talking to him. And I don't know why I didn't, but, and I'm generally pretty approachable or talk to people. But then because of the book and because of one of the things that, okay, this is crazy, I have to stop. So I stopped. His name is Hal Ladner. Turned out that he had a stroke and he couldn't use the right side of his body. His speech was impacted. And I spoke to him for about 10 minutes. I bought one of the tiles, which was $10. And for me, it was a real eye opener that I need to do more of this. And I know for him, he was quite grateful that someone would stop and talk to him. I think people are just uncomfortable talking to him. And so as a result of that, I started to do that more often. So now when I go to buy coffee in the morning, I know my guy, his name is Matt. We talk all the time. When I buy lunch, same thing. When I buy, there's a convenience store in the building that I work in, and I talk. And it's like 2 minutes, 5 minutes maybe, but it's really changed the way I approach things.
So they're getting to know you well enough at Starbucks. They spell your name right.
Not only they spell my name right, but they know what I want, which maybe
perfect.
that's a bad thing. I don't know. I don't even have to order anymore. They just like, oh. Well, and sometimes if I don't want it, I don't change it. I take it anyways. But Matt's been great. And I see Matt. I see Matt. I see these other people walking through the hallways now, and it's a whole different experience. Whereas before, I would always convince myself I'm too busy, I shouldn't stop, and now I make a point of it.
You're still busy and you still have the same stuff going on, but how has that made a difference? Like now is it taking more time, or is it actually just changed the way you do things?
It hasn't taken more time, and it's made my life better.
Yeah, and I'm curious about your other authors. So they also kind of came up with their 20 Ds. You must have sat around and just shared stories there. So and they're not here right now, but is there any that you could share that just from the period of time of writing the book, you're probably trying some of these things out?
Well, we would get together, and what we would do is we'd go away, compile the list, and then come back. Yeah. And this was in 2019. And to be honest, it always got really emotional because people were thinking about what somebody may have done for them, or like one of the example is Paul is a retired police officer, and one of the things we said was buy a police officer a coffee, or just go up and thank them for the work they do. And he was quite emotional about that because it did happen to him, and he know how it made him feel. So it was very emotional, and I can tell you that not all of them are, of course, but there seems to be one or two things for everybody in the book that they can relate to. Like getting a handwritten card, for example. Yeah.
It seems they say if you want to be a great leader, you should really be an empathetic leader, right? And it seems like more like that's a state of mind, but this actually seems like some practical ways to really become empathetic too, right? Because to the mere action of talking to someone or getting to know their names forces you into being empathetic, right? You have to learn a bit about those people and understand where they're at.
Well, what's interesting is with the cards, we did notice this, and that I've done it too. So if I were to ask you, Ron, to go and say hi to 5 people today, you may or may not. But when you have a card in your hand, it gives you permission to do it. Yeah. So you can walk up and if I didn't know you, I'd say, look, you're going to find this kind of odd, but I've got this card and I need to introduce myself to 5 people and I'm choosing you. So the card or the book take away any of the challenge with doing the challenge. So it's just been amazing to watch. It's a very small thing, but it gives people permission. And we use the cards here at work. So at work, when we have our team meetings, we pick a card and we all do it. And then next week we report in.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, it's inspiring. And so I'm going to ask you right at the beginning of the book, you talk a bit about, one of the most important things about being a better human. It seems to be some of the fundamental premise for the whole book is about being present and connecting with others.
Mhm.
So is that something that you went back and wrote the introduction to the book after, or is that something you knew going into the book, that those were kind of the two fundamental components?
Part of it is we did quite a bit of research up front
Yeah.
through surveys and meeting with people, and then we found out that the being present was very big.
Mhm.
And we were all sharing our own personal experiences. When you're at dinner, for example,
Yeah.
and everybody's on their phone, and how that feels if you're not on your phone. So we thought the being present was important, and the connecting part. None of this, by the way, is really new. It's just like we're saying as a reminder. The connecting part was really important in 2019. It's extremely important
No
now
kidding.
with isolation, mental health issues. The stats now, where it was 1 in 5 people having mental health issues, the expectation now is it's 5 in 5 are having something going on. So yeah, the connecting part, it's a big one for me.
And kind of to talk about COVID a bit, you started writing before COVID, but essentially a lot of this was written, these books during COVID. Is that correct?
Well, the teen one was
Yeah.
for sure that. So the
Yeah.
first book was released just in March of 20,
Yeah.
just as COVID was hitting. And it actually impacted our book launch. We weren't able to have the book launch as we were hoping to. And then the teen book was written during COVID. Yeah.
So did you go back thinking, oh man, had I known COVID here, I would have changed some of the
Probably.
chapters, or were they mostly relevant? Did you find?
Well, they're relevant because a lot of it on the connecting side was reaching out to an old friend, reach out to somebody you haven't spoken to. Maybe and you reach out and ask someone to share their story or share a challenge they're having. So it's still very relevant, I would say.
Well, and you guys divided. So the book was basically roughly divided, quartered, right? You each took you said 20 different items and
Yeah.
went through. And was it pretty random, or did someone specialize in certain things than the other? How did you decide?
It was random. And we want, one of the things that was a key principle for this book and the teen book and all the books we're planning to do is writing from the heart. Well, that was for us really, really important. And we didn't necessarily, it wasn't an academic book, it's about how do you actually feel.
Yeah.
And we just wrote down, we coordinated, of course, but we just wrote down things that were important to us.
So a couple, I got your section here.
Oh,
So
okay.
we talked about we talked about being present.
Yeah.
One of the other ones here was identify your purpose.
Yeah.
So and you have a little story around that, and then a bit of an exercise of question answering. So I don't know if it's a good one or not, but what was the process? Kind of what would you expect if someone read that chapter, or and when I say chapter, I mean page.
Yeah, page. It was a page.
Chapter. What would your expectation for someone to actually get the most out of reading that one there?
Well, what the book is a story on one side and a notes page on another. We were hoping people would use the book and write in it. And for me, I was lucky enough to spend some time talking about my purpose. Mm-hmm. And we were hoping to inspire people to to just step back and reflect, from all of the authors, we all came from various backgrounds. Some of us had kids, some of us didn't. Some of us were working in BC, some Alberta. We had one was a teacher, one worked at a post-secondary school, one a police officer, and one who was doing her PhD. And so we had a mix, and it's very random. In other words, like there's no theme, but the theme is do something for somebody else.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you about the ones, but actually we've almost covered every one already, just in this buying a drink for someone. And actually what it tells me is it's very personal, right? Because
I think
we've already talked about the things that were important to you in here. Actually calling an old friend, buying a coffee, We did not talk about learning an instrument though.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking that one's not too random.
No, I think part of that was we were figuring originally we were thinking, okay, if I'm going to be a better human being, I need to work on myself as well. And we just
Yeah.
thought, well, I need a hobby. So, because we know that if you have a hobby, you'll probably have a better life. We did reference some of the other books, like the Blue Zones book,
Yeah.
Living in the Blue Zones, about and having a purpose
Yeah.
is critical to having a good life. So that was I had read those books, and they were definitely influential.
Well, in your back, I mean, you could have wrote a book on theory for all of this, I suspect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But you would have got, it's a totally different impact reading it, not as theory, but as actual real little nuggets of information, right? So I'm curious, what kind of feedback have you got from readers?
So in the first book, it was pretty cool, actually. We did sell quite a few books, and we sold through Amazon. .com and .ca, and we also sold through chapters, but it's online in the store, not on the shelves. And the feedback was really it was pretty good. Like people, it was a lighthearted. I kind of joked as a bit of a bathroom reader, you could just read a page if you want, it pretty quick, but feedback was good. I think people really appreciated the fact that it was something that it was an action oriented book. We weren't trying to we didn't want to talk about ourselves, or we really wanted to talk about other people and or things. Although we were inspired by how we felt when people did things for us.
Yeah, and now you went on to write another book, but in that book, was there anything at the end you thought, man, I should have put it in? Or did your 100 list cover, is that the ultimate list?
Oh yeah, no. You know what? We could do another list of 1,000. Like,
okay.
Yeah, because you all of a sudden, it's so interesting when you do the book, and the editing part takes forever.
Yeah.
and then you eventually don't even want to read it anymore because you've seen it 100 times. And you get the red editing marks in there. Absolutely could for the first book we could do a follow-up and add some. Yeah.
Well,
and as a matter of fact, we
did do a follow-up.
We did.
It focused on teens, right?
We did. Yeah.
So let's talk about so the second book, Being a Better Human Teenager. Nothing about a kick-ass reminder. I don't know if that was purposely left out. But
we left it out.
Was it? Or just kick-ass was the subtitle of that you didn't put on?
Yeah.
So,
and I believe, by the way, one of the other authors is online, Hillary, if that's you. I can't see your last name, but yes, it is.
Oh, cool. We got one of the authors here.
There she is. Okay. Well,
good. Hillary could either chime in with really hard questions for Steve or help with some of the answers. So thanks, Hillary. So
absolutely.
So let me talk about this book first of all. So it's kind of divided into two halves, literally two halves. Yep. One side is the book. You flip it over. The other side is actually a daily journal.
Yep.
And then the first half of this book, it starts out, I got to ask you, so whereas the first book is really real nuggets, little stories, this one here, you actually start out with some very purposeful research. The first half of it is research, and it's not research with lots of charts and data. It's really feedback there. Do you want to talk about that process and
sure.
how you did it and why you presented in the book this way?
Well, when we did after the first book, you started to hear all these incredible stories of people that were doing things. And then this was another collaborative book. So Hillary Rideout is on here right now, Paul Lamoureux and Melissa Fromm. And, we all have kids, some older than others. Mine is in his early 20s. And it just seemed like we needed to start telling some of these incredible stories. And there were so many.
So you did a survey then?
We did.
It's not a numbers one. It's you're looking for real feedback, real words on meaning and impact and what would it. So a couple of I'll just go. What impact? I'm assuming this was the question you asked the teenagers, but what impact would a better human teenager have on their own? Right.
Yeah. And by the way, Ron, what we did is we took the same questions and we asked everybody the same questions.
Yeah.
So we could so we could see different perspectives.
And then, and a bit about, I don't have them all, I should have wrote them all down, but how would a better human teenager have, what impact do they have on the world, right? And different things. So, and then just huge, actually what I appreciated is it was readable, and, a lot of research is charts and everything, which is great. But how did that, so now you had all of this feedback, how did that inform, so this all informed now writing the rest of the book?
Yeah. Hey, Hillary, do you want to answer that question? Because Hillary would play a major role in pulling.
Sure. Yeah. We thought it was really important to hear straight from teens themselves, parents, coaches, teachers, really anybody that has kids in their life, to really kind of understand what it meant to them to be better. And there isn't really a definition of that exists that's commonly understood, and maybe it means a little something different to everybody. But it was really insightful to hear the different words that people use to describe those things and answer the questions that we were asking. And then we were able to take that data and actually reflect upon it. And so a big part of the first part of the book is actually some of the author's insights into what we heard, what we were struck by, what we really wanted to focus in on. And we're able to, kind of hone in on some real key thematic insights. And then we went on, and you'll see in the book, and Ron, I'm sure you've seen this, but there's a whole bunch of stories from actual teens. And we started to see the exact same things show up in those stories. So it really validated what we had first discovered in those, in that survey.
Yeah, so the story, so you really did the research first, and then proceeded to actually find teenagers. Well, let's talk a bit about that. Well, Steve and Hillary there. How did you find the teenagers and your interview candidates? And again, you seem to divvy them up between the bunch of you.
We did. We did it. We reached out through social media. So we have an Instagram channel, a Facebook channel, and LinkedIn. And we were looking for people to share names of people that they thought were telling, that had a great story. It was also in the research too. So then we would follow up with them. And the great thing about this is our reach changed dramatically. We went from being a local storyteller to a North American storyteller, because we had kids from the US and Canada. So our scope went bigger, and it was really fascinating.
Steve, you and I talked a bit about this before. It also went more diverse, right? So like one of the things you were pretty conscious of, you didn't want it to be, one demographic or anything. And that sounds like it allowed you to actually really get the diversity and we did, and maybe I'll just mention too, the one thing we talked about before is this can't be for one demographic, because it really is, to be a better human teenager means a better teenager anywhere, any demographic, any ethnicity.
Absolutely.
So all those things. So how did that impact the surveys there?
Well, I think what we found was the common denominator, regardless of financial status or gender or race, was there were kids who were doing great things. And the stories also varied. So some kids were doing something quite simple, like shoveling their grandparents' walkway. And everybody, all the walkways along the path to their parents' place. And we had people, then we on the top end side, I'm going to say it's just as far as scope, people creating foundations. So, and every story was just quite incredible to read and so inspiring. And we had made a rule that the story had to have taken place when the person was between the ages of 13 and 19. It's kind of a loose rule in a way, but
generally,
we had
generally a teenager, if you're going to write about teenagers, that's kind of the age group, right?
Yeah, but it's more of a guide, right? And, but we had 2 boys who started something when they were 10.
Yeah.
But they happened to be 13. But they were still doing this stuff, and just incredible.
So, well, let's talk about some. There's a couple stories, and you and I mentioned, we chatted about a couple, but maybe between you and Hillary, you can tell a story. There's one story about Adam, and he's actually a teen that was living with autism and epilepsy, right?
Mhm.
There. Did he-
So great story. I've never met him physically, but I met him on Zoom when we did our book launch, and what a dynamo.
Wow.
You know, so much energy, just like an incredible volunteer, a kid that's giving back with even with the challenges that he has, and he's very open about it. And you know, he talks about the challenges that he has to overcome. Just does an incredible job.
And each of these interviews, you really go through, and what does it mean to be a better human? Why is it important? It really makes them think about what they're doing as well. I suspect, and then Ed tells story, and and then they had to share some specific advice for other teens, and then some of the challenges, kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
And then is there people that inspire them? But it sounds like these people these kids, teens who are doing these activities, it made them think a bit about what they were doing and why as well, right?
Yeah, Hillary, I don't know if there's any other stories that stuck out for you. I mean, Adam is the one that really
Well,
resonated with me.
what struck me about Adam too is I remember one of the questions, or he brought it up at some point, is he was really grateful for having autism.
Wow.
Which I thought was just so incredible, but it afforded him opportunities to behave and act in the way that he was acting. So I just remember getting full on chills when we talked to him during our book launch. And so were kids and teens being profiled in the book who were sort of just, and I don't mean just, but they were every single day. That was part of who they were. It was part of their character, and they looked for opportunities to do sort of small but impactful things for other people. Like make sure that the new kid at school has somebody to talk to, take people under their wings in that way. And then we had teens who were doing remarkable things. There was one who I got to know over months of interviews and conversations. And at the age of 6, she contracted Lyme disease through a tick bite. And today, I think she's 17 now. And since she was 12, she has been the founder of the Live Lyme Foundation in the United States. And they work to raise money for families who can't afford Lyme medication. And she runs this organization, this foundation, which is just incredible. Obviously, she has a team, but at the age from 12 to 17 current day, she's been doing that. So she just made this incredible purpose be so impactful for so many other people. So, we didn't want teens just who were doing these big, huge things, because that would feel quite inaccessible or not doable, feasible for readers. But profiling people like Adam and other teens like him was really important as well, because they were sort of those daily, everyday heroes.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Even, sorry, I just forgot the name of the girl who got the tick.
Olivia.
Her started out, her life, started out something, I won't say mundane, but it wasn't something that other people turned that type of problem into, just such so life-changing, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And all these kids are so humble too.
Yeah.
So I'm really actually curious to know their reaction. So you assemble all these kids and you publish them. Any reactions and feedback from the teens that have been there? Has your book changed their lives?
Some of them said, a lot of them couldn't believe that their stories are good enough for a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did hear from some of the people that I know that it did. They brought it to school. They shared it with their teachers.
Yeah.
And so I'd say yes, that absolutely did happen for them. And I think getting that recognition was really important, not for them, but for what they're doing. And hopefully it inspired others to do something similar or anything really.
Yeah. Well, that is inspiring. So any big surprises, like look back now in the last couple of years of writing books and 2 books out there, what if you look back and say, oh, I wasn't expecting that, or that's totally different than I was planned. What's your look back on these?
Well, if you do it with the right people, which I feel is so fortunate. It's so much pleasure to do it. You get together every week, and there's all this energy, and so from that, and you learn things about yourself. You learn about developing patience, and no word of a lie, the editing process is a process with a capital P. However, what I learned is that everybody has a story, and I think everybody should write a book.
Yeah.
I just think that it's and it's not about making this million seller book.
Mm-hmm.
It's about getting your thoughts on paper, helps define your purpose. And it really is an opportunity for people to develop personally. For me, I don't know about Hillary, but what
Any
you would
thoughts
say?
on that, Hillary?
I will echo that the editing process is a painful. I have a few computers in front of me, and this one right here has another book on it that I'm editing.
But Hillary is great at it, by the way. I think the trick is to say you're not good at it, and you don't have to do it as much. But
careful what you become good at.
Yeah, that's right. I did say that out loud. But
hey, so I want to talk a bit about, you have an upcoming book. So you've interviewed a lot of dogs.
Yes, we have.
To find out what they think of humans and what.
Oh, one sec. I was going to say it was a rough process. So
bad.
Oh my goodness.
I just made that up, by the way. That's to say. The next book, which is Hillary just finished editing, is called How Dogs Make Us Better Human Beings. And it's similar format, same stories, really about people and how they were impacted by their dogs. And then we also did research up front. We asked people to give for their feedback, and it's, I don't know, it should be it'll be out before the end of the year.
Do you have any teasers for us from some?
It's a
cool
tearjerker.
Tearjerker.
It's a tearjerker.
Oh yeah.
I sent a nasty text to the author while I was editing saying, I'm crying.
That's right.
Okay. So for everyone on the line and listen to the podcast, get ready to buy that book and have a box of Kleenex, please.
Well, we joked about that. Oh, you should come with a box of Kleenex. But we're in this case, we're acting as the publisher for the book.
Yeah.
So, Hillary designed the cover and is doing the editing, and working with a company called the Leash Team out of Edmonton. They have a dog walking service. So it's their stories, really.
Oh, cool.
And then the next book, the other book that's in play right now, is called Leaders Who Care, or Better Human Leaders. And it's very similar to the teenager book. And we're identifying leaders who care.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to that there.
Yeah. So. Also a very emotional book, by the way.
Okay.
I think the theme is we're finding these great emotional topics and we're telling good stories,
You're going to have to start publishing them in waterproof ink and everything.
They're being done in plastic. And I think it's, I think the big aha for me is that there's so many great stories out there, and they just never get told. And it's time to change that. So I don't know. I think it's important to do that.
Well, we do have some other people on the line, so I want to make sure we have time for just a couple of questions if they have it there. But maybe just a bit about, I'm curious, what's your book reading? What is, outside of your own books, what's your must read? What would you recommend for people? And and obviously, like, years of experience coming up to this, so there must have been some authors or books or people that inspired you along the way.
Well, absolutely. I'm mostly I was fiction, and I'm mostly nonfiction now. There's a book, an explorer named Ernest Shackleton. The guy's really big. He explored the Antarctic and about being stuck in the ice. I've read a number of those books about that. There's a new book now called Permission to Feel. And it's really about connecting with yourself. The Power of Purpose by Richard Leider. I had a chance to meet with him and work with him directly about identifying your purpose. That was definitely a game changer for me. And then those would be there's a whole host, honestly, of books around but mostly around, I don't want to call it self-help, but it's around self-reflection and how you can make yourself better. And I still think that's the key thing here. It's never about being best. It's just about being better, a little bit at a time. And we're never perfect. And I do have bad days for sure. One of the I'll just tell a quick funny story is that one of the things in the book and the cards is to smile at the person next to you in your car. So when you're driving, if you're stopped at a red light, well, I can tell you that doesn't always go over well. So people look at you like, you got a problem? And it's like, oh no, I'm just following the card. But
wasn't the moment you went to say, do you want to know how to be a better teenager?
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, exactly. Turn the music down. But no, it's been just an incredible time to do this.
Hillary, since you're on the line, is there any?
Oh, I think Hillary had to check out.
Oh, did she have to check out?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we had a few other questions, but maybe I'll just open it up. We get some other people in line, just in case there's someone here who just wants to ask you a question or has a comment there. Is there anyone that's joined us that would like to join in with a question or a feedback or comment?
Hey, Ron, it's Angie.
Angie.
Oh, I'll open up my camera. Hi.
There you go.
No, not specifically a question, just really thanking both of you for the conversation today. Steve, I was reminded how much I enjoyed our conversation the last time we met, and I'm all fired up again about being a better human, and I can't wait to read the books. And I look forward to connecting, because a lot of what we talked about today aligns really nicely with some of the work that I'm doing as well. So thanks so much, Ron and Steve. I've really appreciated it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Angie, you're having a once a week. You want to tell us a bit about what you do once a week there? Because it does align a bit there, right?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so I do a call room on Clubhouse, which is an audio only app. And so once a week, we talk about all things mental fitness. And recently I've started talking about what I call sage leadership. That's what I think Steve and I can connect on. So it's about being an empathetic leader, as well as a bunch of other sage powers around positive intelligence, which would be my book recommendation. So yeah, thanks. So I'd love to reach out to me if you need a connection onto Clubhouse and how to get there. But Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Thanks.
Well, part of what we're trying to do here is build community and make connections. So thanks, Angie, for joining us. Any other questions from people who've joined us today or comments?
Just wanted to say thank you. It's so nice to see everyone again. I haven't seen Steve since well before the pandemic, and
yeah, that's
nice
for sure.
To hear what you're up to and to hear about your new books.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and just to let you know, we are planning to have a Better Human conference next April. We'll have keynote speakers, and we've got those 2 books in play right now. We are doing some publishing as well. And next year we've got, I think, 6 books on the go. And
wow,
Better Human. So I have a whole bunch of domains that I need to use up, but Better Human Teacher, Better Human Coach, Better Human First Responder, Better Human Parent. I think we need to tell more of these stories. That's the goal here. And it's just to inspire, and we need to change the narrative, because if you watch the news, it's pretty depressing after the first 3 minutes. But there are some incredible people out there doing some just amazing things. And the way we look at it, we think if we can tell their stories and inspire people, then we can change what's going on. But it's not about being prescriptive. It's not about saying, okay, you need to go and do this and the world will be better. We're just saying, you got to find what works for you. And so far, so good.
Well, and I will say that there's got to be something in these books that people can relate to, right? I think there's a lot of books people decide just from reading a bit that it's not for them, but you cover so many good little nuggets in both these books that there has to be something someone can relate to, and some little nugget that can turn around and maybe make a difference in their life. So
how about this? Why don't we do a challenge? Like for anybody who's online or anybody who watches the podcast, the very next day, so within 24 hours, you need to introduce yourself to somebody you see every day.
Oh, good. That is a great challenge.
So and take it up. It's hard, just telling you.
Well, and And because I know we're doing this live, but we do post these podcasts, so this could be a challenge that just goes on. So,
Yep.
so if someone's gonna pick this up and listen to this a year from now, the challenge still stands. So, and we might have some stories. We might have some stories about how it went. So, great challenge. Is there any, actually, just so before we start wrapping up here, is there anything else we didn't talk about that you'd like to just share that that we might not have covered there?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. It's been a great experience.
Yeah.
Book sales have gone well for the second book, but we didn't really make the book, honestly, to sell all kinds of books. That was never the goal here. The goal was to, maybe touch a certain smaller group of people that might find it interesting. And
where can people find your book?
Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon.com or which is the US version, or .ca, the Canadian version, of course. And this second book we've sold in the UK as well.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so we've got some reach on this book, and
you have your own website, right?
Yeah, betterhumangroup.com, and
if someone wants to reach out to you.
Yeah, they can absolutely reach out, and of course I'm on LinkedIn.
Yep.
But it's been fantastic, and it feels really good to do this, and I've met some great people, and I just believe that everybody should seriously consider writing a book, either if it's as a solo author or a collaboration. Get some like-minded people together, and what we just heard that the book might be used for curriculum here in Alberta at a school to start off with. So that would be kind of neat if to use the list in the back. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a great experience.
Well, we sure appreciate you taking the time today. And tell Hillary thanks for joining in.
I will, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great.
She wasn't sure whether she could. We all have day jobs, right? So this is
that was great, and sure appreciate that. And just a reminder to everybody. So Marlene will be posting these on our website here, and coming up, actually maybe Marlene, I will hand it over to you, and you can kind of do a few announcements and upcoming events as well.
Yes, of course. Well, first. Thank you so much, Ron and Steve, and to all of you for watching and listening to this podcast. And yeah, I want to encourage you to check out our website, resourceyyc.org, for more events coming up and to find out more about details about the services that we provide here. Our next episode for this Talk to the Author will be on December the 2nd, and we're going to be having our special guest, Suzanne Lubell, who was also here watching this amazing session. So yeah, thank you so much again.
Well, thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks again, Steve.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, you guys too.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.